Hello everybody! So here is Black Angel again, and I'm here to talk to you about introverted intuition. So I'm not going to go through every type and what introverted intuition does in every position the same way as I do with every other type, with every other function, because introverted intuition is not as easy to understand as every other function. Same will be for extroverted intuition. So when we talk about intuition, we always talk about something that the human mind has a tendency to perceive as something kind of magical in some way. It's not magical, but it's that category of things that the human mind does that doesn't resonate as logic and normal. So it's basically the anti-logic. That's why the most abstract and the most intuitive of all types, which is the INFJ, is in contrast with the most practical and the most down-to-earth of all types, that is the ESTJs. That's the split in which we actually see how intuition is normally perceived by people, by human beings. INFJs kind of have this head in the clouds, not really living in the reality we know kind of aftertaste kind of feeling. And that's because when you live in the world of concrete things, of material things, you miss a lot of other things that are not actually visible or tangible. So that's where introverted intuition and extroverted intuition come at play. Introverted intuition specifically is something that science is studying a lot, or at least a side of it is something science is attempting to study without great success, to be honest. Whenever we talk about causality, we think we're talking about logic, but we're not. In fact, if you look at scientific experiments, it is possible to figure out the logic behind a behavior or behind a scientific, behind um, whatever is happening, whatever phenomenon. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, phenomenon. But it is not possible by a scientific experiment to actually find out the real order of things, what caused what and where it led. So we can make attempts to do that. We can kind of come up with ideas of how things actually work. But it's not something that can be actually proven with scientific methods. And that is proof that we're talking about intuitive fields and not logic. So I know a lot of you are screaming at the video now because of the monitor. Just don't throw stuff because you're breaking your own monitor, and that's not something you're going to enjoy afterwards. But anyway, that's how things are. And if you think about it a little bit, you're going to see what I mean. So yeah, moving on. So introverted intuition dwells in the realm of causality. So it's that category of individuals that are going to see without giving too much thought to it how things are going to develop over time. So we're talking about, for example, INFJs, when they see your emotional state, your state of mind, they're going to be able to tell you how the state of mind is going to develop over time. So, for example, if someone is angry, a guy is angry at his girlfriend because she behaved in a way that made him feel disrespected, for example, then in that case, that kind of feeling could develop over time into a breakup. Why? Because of the increased anger, and if there is no talk about it, if nothing is done to avoid that feeling or to avoid that thing from happening again, something is going to happen in the future that is going to lead to breakup. Um, So that's something that is connected, for example, to introverted intuition, to the understanding of how things develop over time and what things are going to become in time, or where things came from. For example, ENFJs and ENTJs rock at seeing where things come from. They are more past-oriented than introverted intuitive dominants. So past-oriented means that if you feel a certain way, an introverted intuitive auxiliary is going to be able to tell you why you feel that way, where that feeling came from, and how that feeling arrived, where it stems, where the origin is. Now, it's not like an introverted intuitive dominant is not going to be able to do that. It's just their focus is slightly different. If you ask an introverted intuitive dominant to tell you where that kind of thing comes from, they're gonna take a little, take a moment, like a fraction of a second to think about it, and then they're going to tell you. Whereas the introverted intuitive auxiliary is going to tell you right out without you asking, because they have this past-oriented focus, whereas an introverted intuitive auxiliary is going to have to give it more than just a fraction of a second of thought if they want to see how things are going to develop over time. They're very good at that, but they need to think about it because that's not their normal focus. Anyway, that's causality, and that's one aspect of introverted intuition. Another side of it is connected to what psychology considers the theory of mind, calls the theory of mind. Now, if you want to look it up, the theory of mind is at the base of Baron Cohen's experiments and studies about autism, for example. And when we talk about the theory of mind, we talk about the ability of an individual to understand another's position, another's state of mind. This is something society actually lacks a lot, because if we are able, on one side, to put ourselves in other people's shoes, it's not something that a lot of people do a lot of the time. And a lot of people also don't even think about doing that. They're able to do that. Even an introverted intuitive vulnerable is able to use introverted intuition vulnerable person, someone that never uses introverted intuition, is eventually able to do that unless they are autistic. But anyway, they're not very inclined to do that. It's something that people normally avoid doing. That's why, not why, that can be shown in the fact that if you look at statistics online, you're always going to see that introverted intuitive dominants and introverted intuitive auxiliaries are extremely rare in the population. So that shows you this thing. It's not any reason whatsoever. Anyway, yeah. Introverted intuition is an ability to see the state of mind of people, to put yourself in other people's shoes. Not just that, when it is in the leading position, it's actually kind of turning into the other person. If extroverted feeling has the ability to read the emotion on a person's face and to manipulate those emotions, kind of also becoming part of that emotion in some way. That's also always a rational thing happening when it comes to extroverted feeling. When it comes to introverted intuition, instead, we're talking about the state of mind. So the state of mind is something very different from your feelings or how you feel. How you feel is generated by your state of mind. Or can be influenced, rather, by your state of mind. But your state of mind is the way you're looking at things. So it's something a little bit more complex and a little bit more behind the scenes than your feelings or your reactions to reality. It's like a little bit like the object in front of you, the fact that you are able to somehow have awareness of the object in front of you and how you elaborate this object, how you call it. Like, for example, I have a webcam in front of me and I call it a webcam. That's perception. The fact that I'm able to know that that this thing, this object that I call webcam is there, that's sensation. So that's when the signal hits the receptor. So that's something objective that is there. That's the reaction, basically, that you can compare that thing to the you can compare the reaction to the perception, actually, to how you call things. So the reaction is how you call things, whereas your state of mind is the fact that there is something to react to in your mind, or some way to something in your mind happening at all. Um, I think I'm making things more complicated than they actually are. But anyway, you know, when you feel happy or sad, or when you're in whatever feeling whatsoever, like right now, you're feeling something. You're probably feeling confused by what I'm saying. So stop there for a moment. Freeze your confusion there and keep it in mind that you're feeling that way, or that you're feeling amused or happy or whatever the case may be. Freeze that feeling right there and think about how you feel without that feeling. That's your state of mind. So that's how you're looking at me, the way you're looking at me while you're feeling that way. So you're probably interested or in admiration in some way, or you're probably critic of what I'm saying. There's something behind the feeling you're feeling right now. That's your state of mind. That is going to influence every reaction you're going to have to my video. So introverted intuitive dominants have the ability to spot that exact state of mind in people and leave that with them. It's like introverted intuitive dominants are basically those individuals that have many personalities, and they're said they should not be trusted. So do not trust introverted intuitive dominants. Do not trust that the person there, because they have more than one personality. That's something that is said a lot. Whenever you hear something like that, you're talking about introverted intuitive dominance, because the introverted intuitive dominant changes their personality according to the person they have in front of them. And that's because their mind automatically switches into the state of mind of the person they have in front of them. So if you ever met an INFJ and your original state of mind towards this person is critic, what you're going to have in front of you is someone extremely critic of whatever they're going to say and whatever you are going to say. Because that's what they do. They just switch into that state of mind. And if someone crosses paths with you and this INFJ you're talking to, and talks to the INFJ, and they're probably amused by the INFJ, by the thought of the INFJ, so their state of mind towards that person is amusement, you're going to see that this INFJ completely changed their personality into someone extremely jolly and amused about life, about whatever they're talking about. That's what introverted intuition is about. And INTJs are perfectly able to do that too, and they actually do that without even realizing they do. With INTJs, though, it's not something you can see externally. It's something more internal, more that happens deep down. So you're going to see that in the answers they provide, in the way they talk to you, rather through the words they choose and through the way they're going to approach you. That's what an INTJ is going to do with their introverted intuition towards a person. Whereas INFJs are going to look a little bit like, they're called the chameleons for a reason, but they look like someone that is changing their face and their entire being with the change of time. Like, without any apparent reason, this person suddenly turns into someone else or something else. And you don't know why, you don't know where it comes from, and you cannot actually explain what the hell is going on. When that happens, you're dealing with introverted intuition in the leading position, so in the dominant introverted intuitives, and probably an INFJ. That's why it is so difficult to spot INFJs and to spot IIs, as they're called in socionics, because they mold themselves into whatever they have in front of them. So basically, whenever someone that is doing the typing, so an expert is doing the typing, they're, unless they're an ESTP, because the ESTP has an ability to see the INFJ's personalities and aspects. Whatever other type is going to type themselves. I've seen an INFJ typed by an ENTJ and being typed an INTJ, then being typed by an INFP and being typed an INFP, and then being typed by an ENFP and the ENFP typed her an ENFP. That's what happens. If an INFJ is being typed by someone else, they're going to be typed whatever this person's actually is. Because they're going to see themselves, not because they're projecting. That's not about projecting. It's because of introverted intuition. It's because introverted intuition gives you back whatever it is that you are. So that's probably why ESTPs enjoy seeing themselves in the eyes of INFJs, because INFJs give you back the positive sides of you. And if you are at odds with that, you're going to hate them. Instead, if you are in a positive state of mind towards yourself and towards those traits, you're going to love them. So that's something actually pretty sad, that an I dominance can never be loved for what they actually are, unless they're having to do with their dual. But yeah, that's basically how it works. So yeah, introvert intuition is this thing. When it comes to ENTJs and ENFJs are more, they're called Hamlets, and that's because they're actors. But actors meaning that, like, they're true actors. They enjoy doing that. But like I said, extroverted feeling is a rational function. It's something we're aware of, it's happening. So whenever an ENFJ changes personality, it's something that happens rationally. So how do I explain that? An INFJ might have to sit in front of a monitor and listen to that specific kind of music to change their personality, to change their state of mind, and therefore change their facial expression, their personality, their demeanor, and everything, because it happens without them realizing it's happening. That's how intuitive functions and sensory functions are irrational. They happen on their own, without the person doing anything for that to happen. Whereas rational functions happen with our control over the function. So ENFJs deliberately choose to become that thing. So an ENFJ decides to show that specific state of mind, and they do without actually needing any time, taking any time, or listening to any music or anything. They're just aware of what they want to turn into, and they just do that. So yeah, that's pretty useful actually. Like INTP, INTPs, no, they don't like introverted intuition. Not that they don't like it, it's just they're not very into it. Or actually, yeah, well, it's complicated. It's their demonstrative function. Anyway, I was talking about ISTPs. ISTPs need this ability of the ENFJ to mold themselves into stuff deliberately, because they do not know who they are most of the time, or they need to see themselves through another person's eyes. So an ENFJ helps them in that, or that's what the theory actually says. I never tested it. Anyway, yeah. Introverted intuition, so, is this ability to see a person's state of mind and become that thing, either deliberately, if it is in the auxiliary position, or just out of the blue without any apparent reason when it comes to introverted intuitive dominance. Anyway, yeah, if you're trying to type a friend or to type someone and you ask them, how would you describe yourself? And the answer you get is, I don't know, because some days I'm like this, but then some other days I'm right the opposite. And then in that circumstance, actually, I wasn't either, but I was the third thing. And they never can find an actual orientation to who the fuck they are. You're probably dealing with an introvert intuitive dominant. Except for INTJs, actually. Or yeah, they do leave that thing. I don't know exactly how they work, to be honest. I know how they think, but I don't know how they work in this sense, because they are so aware of that thing happening for them that they identify with it. So whenever you ask them, they're probably going to type themselves INFJ most of the time, because they are so aware of being chameleons. That's probably because of extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinking looks at facts, whereas extroverted feeling looks at the emotions being expressed and being shown in the environment. So an INTJ is perfectly able to see facts about themselves, whereas an INFJ is not able to see her own facial expressions. So I don't know, some days I feel like this, some other days I feel like that. I'm not sure who I am. Who the fuck am I? What the hell is going on here? That's an INFJ. The INTJ instead is going to be able to tell you, I normally do this and this and this, and then I behave this and this and that way, and then I do this and this and that. It's extroverted thinking kind of feels like a list of stuff. That's why I think Sheldon Cooper is an extrovert thinking dominant. But anyway, we will talk about it when I will talk about extrovert thinking. Anyway, long story short, introvert intuition dominants are like experts at causality and experts at at the theory of mind, to the point of becoming the other's state of mind. Introvert intuition in the auxiliary position means having an awareness of that thing and being able to make use of that thing the way you want. Introvert intuition in the tertiary position means that the person's way to look at themselves, oh my god, self-esteem. The person's self-esteem is based on the balance in their state of mind, so in the ability to keep their state of mind pretty much balanced, or having some sort of control over their state of mind, and learning about causality, or being able to actually spot causality links. There's other things that introvert intuition can do, but I think I will stop with this too. Anyway, yeah. Introverted intuition in the inferior position is a need and an attraction for someone that is never the same way as they always are. So introverted intuition inferiors tend to be bothered, annoyed, and bored to death by people normally, because these people have this constant way of being. So they're always the same thing, and they never change, and there's never anything new. So that's boring for introvert intuitive inferior. They're seeking all these states of mind, all these changes, all this dynamicity, being dynamic. That's what I mean in the way, in the manner, and in the way of being, actually. And they also need some hints and support to develop an ability to actually see causality connections. Introvert intuition ignoring types do not give a damn about all this stuff. We're talking about ENTPs and ENFPs. They don't fucking care. They probably switched off the video at the beginning if they're here. And or if they watched, it's just because they're as curious as fuck, but not because they're interested in the topic specifically. Then you have INTPs and INFPs that are called in socionic introvert intuition demonstrative. They are perfectly able to use that function and to do what introvert intuitive dominant is able to do, but they much rather prefer to pick a state of mind and keep that. So they are probably the most stable of all in a state of mind. So they're very, very constant and coherent in their state of mind, in their way of perceiving the world, of looking at the world. So if they're going to be manic depressive, like you meet a manic depressive INFP, they're never going to be anything but manic depressive. If you meet a very jolly and fun-oriented, I don't know if that even exists, INFP, and that's what that INFP is going to be all the time. So, and same applies to INTPs. Well, INTPs are a little bit like Morla. They normally take this kind of I don't care approach to life, and that's their constant state of mind. I know an INFJ that enjoys an INTP's company, especially for that reason, because it gives them the possibility to not give a fuck for a moment. So yeah, that's what happens. Uh, then we have ESFJs, sorry, and ESTJs. They are intuitive, intuition, vulnerable. So they do not understand what the theory of mind is there for and why anyone would ever use the theory of mind. So they know how to use it. They can eventually use it. It feels to them like pooping, and they don't actually do it because they don't see the point in doing that. So they are the untyped psychologist types. Even if an ESFJ is perfectly able to manipulate your emotions here and now, so basically put you in a very positive, merry mood. They're never going to touch your state of mind. They're never going to actually see your state of mind behind your current mood. So if you have some reason to be depressed, and they're able to make you laugh, but they're never going to change that depressive mood, that depressive state of mind that is at the origin of your current mood. So they can change the mood, but not the origin. ESTJs are very bothered by that, by introverted intuition. I know ESTJs, sorry, I don't know what type I said. Anyway, ESTJs are extremely bothered by introverted intuition. It's actually the type that is the most bothered by their vulnerable function, as far as I've seen. They really can't handle it. They can't take it. They cannot accept the existence of that thing. They're factual. They're here and now, factual data. So this is the data that we have at hand here and now. So whatever happened yesterday doesn't fucking matter. That's how they think, basically. So it's the kind of person that thinks if you're here with me right now, and I feel depressed, there is no reason for you to feel depressed if you have nothing that makes you feel depressed. And I am not a reason for you to feel depressed. They're going to debate you in that sense, actually. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, moving on. ISTJs and ISFJs would want to use that function. They try randomly, but then they don't. They don't because whenever we're having to do with a function that is in opposition with our dominant function, it's something that actually gets in the way of who we are. So for someone that is focused on their bodily sensations, focusing too much on the state of mind or on causality is actually going out of their comfort zone in a very uncomfortable way. It's actually giving up who they are for something they don't really care about. So we always try and attempt to use that function randomly, but it's not something we give importance to, and it's not something that sticks. So yeah, this is basically introverted intuition. I know I made it long, and I could add a couple of things. So when you hear about underlying meanings, for example, that's something associated with introverted intuition, but I'm not going to go in depth about that one. So yeah. basically causality, urgency, even the ability to see when the right when it is the right moment to do something. So it's called the intuition of time because it is also time oriented. It has the ability, like I said, being causality, it also has the ability to um, feel the flow of time and know when the right moment comes to do to perform an action, for example. um, I think I will close this here because if I start talking about introverted intuition, I could actually make a 3 hours video. Anyway, yeah, I think this is everything. I will talk to you soon. Bye.